Right. Hello, everybody. My name is Joel Gongora. I am an AI engineer at RapidCanvas, and today I'm going to be walking you through a solution for retail operations. So, just a quick context: this is a live retail operations application built on RapidCanvas. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through who it's for, what changes for them, and why the platform underneath matters. So, let's go ahead and get into it. Every operations leader I have spoken to has the same set of issues. They have data scattered across a dozen systems, and they end up seeing that most of their data scientists, or at least nearly half of the data scientists' day, vanishes just stitching all the assets together. So the people that you hired to make decisions are spending their time being really human ETL pipelines. These three pains stack on top of that. So we have fragmented sources, slow answers, and of course, these AI POCs that never ship. They end up dying in a notebook or dying in somebody's computer, right? That's the gap that we're looking to close here with RapidCanvas. So I want to make this concrete. So let's go ahead and meet Sarah. She's the VP of Retail Operations. She has 240 stores to manage and about $1.4 billion in portfolio with 8 different regions. And she has her QBR in 48 hours. Sarah really doesn't need more dashboards. She has plenty of them, okay? She really needs 3 answers this week. The first one being, which 10 stores need a general manager intervention this week? Where does my $4 million Q3 CapEx go, right? Where do those expenditures go? Do I refresh, do I remodel or close? Finance needs an answer by this Friday. What's actually driving the West region dip? Every dashboard tells her a different story, right? So we want to be able to provide a cohesive story that is consistent across all the different solutions that you have available or that Sarah has available. This is the stakeholder we are building for, okay? Now, it doesn't mean that we cannot build for the stakeholders. It just simply means that this persona is mostly interested in these sorts of questions. Now, we can apply this to a different vertical, a different industry, but the pattern is going to repeat. And that's how we are able to accelerate this, because we have done this over and over again with multiple of our customers, okay? So here's what's going to change for Sarah. So Sarah's Monday morning, she gets up, and typically what she has to do is she has to go in and log on to 6 different tools. She spends, 4 hours stitching CSVs together in Excel. She gets possibly 3 conflicting answers from those CSVs. And by her 9 a.m. call with her regional GMs, she really doesn't have any answers or really good feedback to provide them to get them going in the right direction. Now let's pivot to the right, where we have an Acme retail operation. This is a one application, right? Or a single source of truth with a single sign-on. And in 15 minutes, she's able to get a unified view with one single source of truth that is governed, decision ready for her 9 a.m. call. Let's take a look at what that application actually looks like. Let me go ahead and bring this over and show you what that dashboard looks like. What we're looking at right now is the dashboard view of the Acme Pulse. Okay, this is the pulse of the company. We want to see how the company is tracking over time. I can do this for different regions and see how that affects my aggregations. If I have a different persona, in this case, operations, right? I can look at a different pulse for that operations, a different view. I can look at my statistics, and I can even look at individual store level details. This is true for all 3 roles that we have, or 3 different views within this single sign-on, okay? Now, as I mentioned before, this dashboard, everybody has dashboards, and you're able to go through and kind of quickly pull together some great insights. However, many times what ends up happening is the dashboard is not sufficient enough to answer every question, which is why we provide this chat interface. Depending on the view that you have, you're going to have a different set of FAQs that typically come up for these stakeholders. For operations and executives, they might have different sets of questions that they want to answer. So we provide templated prompts already for those stakeholders so that they can come in, open up the dashboard, look at the quick FAQ, and click a button, and it's going to update that information for them live. Okay. Now, in this case, let's take a look at Sarah, right? She wanted to ask some questions about potentially what are some of the stores that she wanted to kind of investigate. What were some of the, maybe which 10 stores need a GM intervention might have been one of the questions that we had here. So let's go ahead and paste that question right in here. Which 10 stores need a GM intervention? Now I'm doing this live. I haven't asked this yet, so we're going to find out what ends up happening. But you can see what it's doing. When I ask that question, it's running a query. It's getting the top 10 at-risk stores with performance gaps, right? It's looking at the EBITDA margin gap, right? And the regional mean. It goes through and kind of describes to me a little bit of a high level of what the engine is doing in the back end. And keep in mind that as we're pulling all of this information, we are querying these tables, right? Whatever assets that it is that we have connected to this agent. Keep in mind that these are structured tables. That doesn't mean that they have to be, right? We can be looking at PDFs. We can be looking at unstructured data, what have you. The tool is robust enough to be able to handle those different data types. Okay, let's head back into our chat and let's see what kind of response we get. So it looks like, in this case, we get some Acme Atlanta is a critical financial stress, right? It lets me know exactly what is happening. Now, one thing you'll notice is that I asked it for 10, right? Potentially. So let's see what kind of results we got here. So it looks like I asked for which 10 stores, and it says 6 stores have maxed out risk scores of 100, with 4 or more sitting at, some range. So it gives me a really great detail of perhaps the top stores that require our detailed attention. It goes ahead and gives me some key insight to extract from that, as well as if I wanted to dive in deeper, there's some deeper insights that I can pull in. Again, these are all set up so that these stakeholders are able to have the most relative information pulled from the sources. If you're somebody who's really interested in learning or seeing exactly what tables it pulls, somebody like an executive might not be as interested. But somebody with a bit more technical expertise might want to actually look to see which queries and which tables is actually pulling from. They might even want to be interested in okay, it gave me some answers, but really I need to see that this is the logic that the agent is doing or the steps that it's taking to get me to the results make plausible sense to me. And this is how we build trust in the application. As more and more users use it, we're able to provide feedback. And with that feedback, we're able to improve errors such as these that might pop up and give me a good indication. So in this case, if I go ahead and highlight this error, I'll just copy and paste it right in here, and I'll submit that as my feedback. That feedback goes in and lets my developers know, hey, I got an error in my results. I need you guys to fix this, and that gets surfaced immediately. The application gets resolved, and then we're able to move forward and continuously improve. Keep in mind that when you develop these sorts of applications, they're much like an employee that you just hired. It's going to take a little bit of time for them to be able to get to a point to where they become extremely valuable, not to say that they're not valuable at the beginning, but just keep in mind that these sorts of tools, we can get you guys developed really quickly, but then it takes a little bit of time to iterate and continuously improve this. But that's for any employee, regardless of what sort of employee you hire. You hire them to do a specific job, and you train them to do their job specifically the way that the company expects it. And that's the same thing for these sorts of agents. Okay. So let's go ahead and back to our slide deck, and let's talk a little bit about through what is happening here. So we talked about Sarah's Monday before and after. We talked about it going from 6 different tools to 1 tool, 4 hours to 15 minutes. And really that savings of time. And finally, the most important part is being able to have answers by that 9 a.m. meeting. Here's how we deliver Sarah's morning. It's 1 application, 3 surfaces that she can interact with, all on the same data layer. She has a portfolio dashboard, right? Really quick overview of everything. But then she has the ability to ask deeper questions, to ask AI about the data. She has the ability to look at the lineage of what decisions the agent made to get her the answers, and then even provide her predictive risk. Same authorization, same governance. It's really one cohesive solution that gets rolled out to support multiple different users.